My brothers and sisters, the moment I touched that uranium sample, with Prime Minister Modi standing right there, the room went completely silent. Not the polite, diplomatic silence you expect at official events. This was a silence born of awe, of fear. The kind of silence that hits when the world order realizes it's facing a challenge. We're talking about 56 billion invested in nuclear power plants that will light up all of West Africa. Technology so advanced that only 31 nations in history have ever mastered it. The kind of power that can take a continent from begging for energy to becoming a global force. This was Africa stepping into the nuclear club, the day we stopped asking for electricity and started generating enough to sell. The day we looked at uranium, the same rocks that fueled Western reactors for 70 years while our villages stayed in darkness, and said, never again. When Modi shook my hand, I felt something I had rarely felt before: respect. For the first time, a global power came not to extract from Africa, but to build with Africa, to create something so massive that the West could no longer call us developing. 60% of the world's uranium lies under African soil. For decades, French companies mined it and sent it to Europe. That uranium powered Paris while Ouagadougou remained dark. It lit London while our hospitals ran on candles. This 56 billion nuclear partnership changes everything. No longer will African uranium leave our soil without creating value. African uranium will power African reactors, generating electricity sold at African prices. 1 kilogram of uranium contains more energy than 3 million kilograms of coal. A single nuclear plant can power millions of homes for decades. This is not just energy independence, it is energy dominance. India brings 50 years of nuclear expertise. We bring vision and determination to never depend on others again. Together, we will build African-owned reactors using Indian technology, operated by African engineers. For 75 years, nuclear power belonged to an elite few: America, Russia, France, Britain. They formed an atomic club that excluded Africa, claiming the technology was too dangerous, too complex, too expensive. The truth is, they feared an Africa powered by atoms. Nuclear power is not just electricity. It is the foundation of industrial civilization. It drives aluminum smelters, steel mills, chemical plants. And now Africa will have it for itself. It's the difference between exporting raw materials and becoming an industrial power. Today, we break that monopoly. India reaches out to lift Africa into the atomic age, not as students, but as equals. Complete technology transfer. Indian engineers training African engineers. Nuclear science taught in African universities. The nuclear monopoly that kept Africa in darkness for 70 years ends today. $20 billion for 4 next-generation reactors, each generating once 200 megawatts, together producing more power than all our current generation combined, with surplus to export across West Africa. $15 billion for nuclear fuel processing. No longer will we ship uranium abroad. African uranium will be processed at African facilities and power African reactors. $8 billion for nuclear universities, educating African nuclear scientists from across the continent. Knowledge once locked in Western labs will now flow freely in African classrooms. $6 billion for safety and waste management, exceeding international standards and proving African nuclear facilities are world-class. $4 billion for transmission infrastructure to deliver electricity to every village through Africa's most modern grid. $2 billion for research facilities, $1 billion for regulatory frameworks. This is not scattered aid. This is systematic investment in atomic sovereignty. In Dori, Amina has lived 60 years under broken electricity promises. Colonial officials promised power. Independence leaders promised development. Aid agencies promised solar panels. All failed. She still cooks over wood and reads by candlelight. Nuclear power changes everything. When the first reactor starts, Dori will have 24-hour electricity for the first time ever. Not intermittent solar that disappears with clouds. Not diesel generators that break monthly. Reliable nuclear electricity for decades. In Gawa, mechanic Sadhu dreams of a modern auto shop but lacks reliable power. The current grid delivers maybe 4 hours a day, making business impossible. Nuclear electricity changes his world. Round-the-clock power means welding equipment, diagnostic computers, electric tools, even electric vehicle servicing. His small shop becomes a modern center employing dozens. At Kaya Hospital, doctors once operated by flashlight when power failed. Medical equipment broke from surges and outages. Nuclear baseload power transforms it into a modern facility: MRI machines, CT scanners, surgical robots, research labs. The hospital that once referred patients to Europe becomes West Africa's referral center. From Washington to Paris, the response was not congratulations. It was threats and desperate attempts to derail Africa's nuclear future. France, having mined African uranium for decades, processed it at home and sold technology only to rich nations panicked. Emergency palace meetings, diplomatic pressure on India, trade threats against us. They even claimed Africans could not be trusted with nuclear technology. The same racist arguments from colonial times. The Americans were subtler but equally alarmed, citing proliferation and security risks, offering solar, wind, or gas instead, but never nuclear. Their real fear in Africa powered by atoms, shifting the global balance forever. We will no longer depend on fuel imports. We will no longer accept second-rate infrastructure. We will demand equal treatment in international affairs. For 60 years, Western companies extracted African uranium and exported it. Niger's uranium-powered French plants. Namibia's fueled American reactors. Africa mined atomic fuel that lit the developed world while remaining energy poor. That colonial relationship ends today. Complete uranium fuel cycle within Africa: mine, convert, enrich, fabricate, and burn uranium in our own reactors. Africa holds 60% of global uranium reserves. We sat on atomic treasure while importing expensive fossils and suffering electricity shortages. That ends now. Indian fuel technology transfers to African facilities: uranium mined in Burkina Faso, processed in Burkina Faso, enriched in Burkina Faso, fabricated in Burkina Faso, consumed in Burkina Faso reactors. Within 20 years, a continental African nuclear consortium will develop continent-wide nuclear capabilities, ending dependence on Western nuclear services forever. India commits to training 10,000 African nuclear engineers over 15 years. This is the largest technology transfer in African history. Nuclear engineering demands advanced physics, materials science, precision manufacturing, and complex safety systems. But these skills extend far beyond power generation. Our graduates will master radiation physics for medical imaging, material science for aerospace, and advanced manufacturing for electronics. Nuclear education creates technological sovereignty across all advanced industries. Burkina Faso will host the continent's most advanced technical university. Students from across Africa will study atomic physics in Ouagadougou. Knowledge once guarded in Western labs will flow freely in African classrooms. Nuclear capability changes how the world sees African nations. Countries with nuclear technology earn respect, caution, and consideration. We have no weapons ambitions. Our development is exclusively peaceful, under full international oversight. Yet technical mastery of nuclear power demands recognition. France can no longer dismiss us as dependent former colonies. America cannot ignore African positions when we operate sophisticated technology. China must treat us as equals when we run world-class nuclear facilities. Nuclear power is peaceful power, but peaceful power is still power. Nations that split atoms for electricity cross technological thresholds, reshaping all international relationships. Already, Nigeria has requested consultations for nuclear partnerships. Kenya has expressed interest. South Africa seeks cooperation to expand reactors. Our model is replicable: continent-wide African uranium, Indian technology, African electricity, African trained engineers. Every successful reactor proves that within 20 years, African nations can master civilization's most advanced technology. We are creating an African nuclear cooperation organization, sharing technology, training scientists, and presenting a unified international voice. Uranium that fueled Western development for 70 years will now build African prosperity for the next century. From Casablanca to Cape Town, the peaceful atom will light African cities and power African industries. When I signed with Modi, I declared, Africa refuses permanent technological inferiority. We reject the notion that nuclear power belongs only to other continents. We refuse to accept outdated scraps of technology. Uranium has waited beneath our soil for millions of years, until African hands could turn it into African prosperity. Today is that day. This is a 56 billion. Not aid, not charity, but a partnership between equals. India gains uranium supplies, Africa gains atomic sovereignty. Within 10 years, the first reactor will reach criticality. African uranium, African facilities, African engineers, African electricity. We cross civilization's threshold. Within 20 years, nuclear-powered industrialization will transform our economy. Aluminum smelters, steel mills, chemical plants, all powered by clean, abundant nuclear electricity from our own uranium. Within 30 years, other African nations will operate nuclear facilities, trained by African engineers and supported by African institutions. Africa's atomic age will be fully realized. This is more than technical achievement. It is the rejection of permanent technological inferiority. We are not asking permission to join the nuclear age. We are not begging for admission to the atomic club. We are claiming our rightful place among nuclear-powered nations as equals. The uranium was always ours. The technology is now ours. The future will be ours. Nuclear-powered Africa rises today, and when we rise forever.